People rarely announce their respect out loud. In fact, some of the deepest forms of respect are never spoken at all. They appear quietly in behavior, in small decisions, in subtle shifts in how someone treats you when no one else is paying attention. If reflections like this resonate with you, consider subscribing and joining a community that explores the deeper psychology behind everyday human behavior. Respect, especially unspoken respect, often lives beneath the surface of relationships. Not everyone is comfortable expressing admiration directly. Pride, insecurity, competition, or emotional distance can make open acknowledgement difficult. Yet human behavior has a way of revealing what words try to hide. Over time, certain patterns begin to appear. Small signals that suggest someone sees more in you than they are willing to admit. One of the first signs appears in how carefully they choose their words around you. With many people, conversations flow casually. Opinions are thrown around without much thought. Jokes may cross boundaries. Criticism can be careless. But when someone secretly respects you, their tone often becomes slightly more measured in your presence. They pause before responding. They reconsider certain remarks. Sometimes they even correct themselves mid-sentence. It is rarely dramatic. Most people would not notice it. But subtle restraint often reveals a quiet awareness of your judgment. They may never say they value your opinion, yet their behavior shows that they do. Another sign appears in moments of disagreement. When someone truly dismisses you, they argue with ease. Your perspective feels unimportant to them, so they challenge it without hesitation. But when someone secretly respects you, disagreement becomes more complicated. They may still argue. They may still defend their position strongly. But beneath the surface, there is often a hint of hesitation. They may soften their tone slightly. They may acknowledge one of your points even while resisting others. Sometimes you will notice them revisiting the conversation later, bringing up something you said as if it has stayed in their mind. Respect has a way of lingering long after the discussion ends. Another quiet signal appears in how they observe you. People who secretly respect someone often watch them more carefully than they realize. Not in an obvious or intrusive way, but in small, attentive moments. They notice how you handle pressure. They observe how you speak to others. They remember details you mentioned casually weeks earlier. This kind of observation often comes from curiosity. They are trying to understand how you think, how you make decisions, how you navigate certain situations. And yet, if you ask them directly whether they admire you, they might deny it immediately. Sometimes this is because respect feels too vulnerable to admit, especially in environments where competition or pride plays a role. If this reflection reminds you of someone in your own life, take a moment to reflect on it. You might share in the comments whether you have ever noticed someone showing quiet respect without ever saying it aloud. Another sign appears in the way they react when others criticize you. This reaction is often subtle, but very revealing. They may not defend you loudly. They may not confront the criticism directly, but something about their body language changes. Perhaps they grow quieter during the conversation. Perhaps they redirect the topic. Sometimes they offer a small balancing remark that softens the criticism without openly opposing the group. In certain cases, they may later bring the conversation back to you in a different light, highlighting something positive you did. What is interesting is that these gestures are often understated. The person may still maintain a neutral public stance, but their actions reveal a quiet reluctance to see you diminished. Respect does not always express itself through praise. Sometimes it appears through restraint. There is another behavior that often surprises people. Someone who secretly respects you may occasionally appear distant, or even slightly competitive. At first glance, this seems contradictory, but in many cases, admiration mixed with insecurity can produce complex behavior. When a person recognizes qualities in you that they wish they possessed themselves, the feeling can create internal tension. Part of them respects you. Another part feels challenged by your presence. Instead of openly acknowledging the admiration, they may respond by pushing themselves harder around you, questioning your ideas more intensely, or keeping emotional distance. Yet if you observe carefully, their attention remains unusually focused on what you do. This tension between admiration and pride is more common than most people realize. Another subtle sign appears in moments when you are absent. Respectful people often reference someone they value when discussing ideas, even if they never praised them directly. You might later hear that this person mentioned something you once said. Perhaps they used your approach as an example. Perhaps they repeated a perspective you shared in a previous conversation. Interestingly, they may not even attribute the idea to you clearly. Sometimes the reference is indirect. But the fact that your thinking remains present in their mind says something important. It means your perspective carries weight with them. Another quiet indicator appears when you set boundaries. Many people resist boundaries immediately. They question them, challenge them, or attempt to negotiate them away. But someone who secretly respects you often responds differently. Even if they initially react with surprise, they tend to adjust their behavior more quickly than others. They may not comment on the boundary. They may not praise your firmness, but they begin respecting the line you have drawn. Respect often reveals itself most clearly when someone accepts your limits. Another interesting signal appears in moments when you succeed. Some people respond to another person's success with visible enthusiasm. Others respond with indifference. But someone who secretly respects you often reacts in a quieter way. They may downplay their reaction publicly, yet they pay very close attention to your progress. They might ask specific questions about how you achieved something. They may analyze your decision-making with curiosity. Sometimes their acknowledgement appears in small remarks that reveal careful observation. That worked out well for you. You handled that situation better than most people would. The compliment may sound casual, but hidden inside it is a recognition of competence. And perhaps the most revealing sign of all appears over time. Consistency. Respect that is genuine tends to remain stable across different situations. Even when emotions fluctuate, even when disagreements arise, the underlying tone of their behavior remains steady. They may challenge you, they may compete with you, they may even frustrate you occasionally, but certain boundaries remain intact. They rarely attempt to humiliate you. They avoid speaking about you with open contempt, and when your name appears in conversation, their tone carries a subtle seriousness. This consistency reveals something deeper than admiration. It reveals regard. People who secretly respect you often maintain this quiet regard, even when the relationship is complicated. They may never express it directly. They may never offer open praise. In some cases, they may even pretend that respect does not exist. But behavior has a way of telling the truth that pride tries to hide. Before we continue, take a moment to think about your own experiences. Have you ever noticed someone showing these quiet signs of respect while never openly admitting it? If so, you might share your observation or reflection. The deeper psychology behind hidden respect often lies in vulnerability. Admitting admiration requires lowering one's defenses. It acknowledges that someone else possesses qualities we value, perhaps even qualities we aspire to. For individuals who guard their self-image carefully, this admission can feel uncomfortable, so the respect remains unspoken. Instead, it appears indirectly, in careful listening, in subtle adjustments, in the quiet weight they give to your presence. Interestingly, intelligent and perceptive people often recognize these signals without needing the words. They notice the shift in tone. They notice who listens closely during conversations. They notice who quietly incorporates their ideas later. And with time, they begin to understand that respect does not always arrive wrapped in praise. Sometimes it arrives quietly, hidden inside ordinary behavior. A person may never say they admire you, but they watch how you handle pressure. They remember your words. They adjust their behavior around you. And perhaps most importantly, they treat your presence with a seriousness they do not extend to everyone else. Before we close today, if you found value in this reflection, consider supporting the channel and continuing this journey of understanding human behavior. Growth Logic. Thanks you for listening and being part of this reflection. And perhaps the most interesting part of hidden respect is this. When someone secretly respects you, they are often learning from you in ways they will never openly acknowledge. Your decisions shape how they think. Your boundaries influence how they act. Your calm and difficult moments become something they quietly study. You may never hear the words, but sometimes the deepest respect is the kind that reveals itself through attention, imitation, and quiet regard. And once you learn to recognize these signals, you begin to see something important. Respect is not always spoken, but it is almost always visible.